Thinking Out Loud with Dave Palmer. Here on Morning Joy, where truth matters.
Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and stepping in for Dave Palmer today is Dr. Ray Lopez, Director of Technology and Giving at the Guadalupe Radio Network, and he's bringing the ancient wisdom of Aristotle with him this morning, and also, I might add, the GRN Academy. But good morning, Dr. Ray Lopez. Oh, looks like we have some audio issues here. Well, we'll get that sorted out. Just another reminder, especially if you're interested in philosophy. I know this is usually the time when Dave Palmer joins us to talk about St. Thomas Aquinas and kind of the views of his perspective. But Dr. Ray Lopez is going to be teaching or be the instructor of Aristotle's Ethics. So very excited about that. But can you hear us, Ray?
Yeah, I can hear you.
There we go.
Oh, hey. Sorry about that. Yeah, I was going to use this really nice microphone I have, but it didn't work. I guess a codec issue. But now I'm using this headset, so I guess everything's good.
Well, we can hear you loud and clear, and that's the most important part. So,
amen.
Ray, so why Aristotle? Why is he so important today?
Yeah, that's a good question, Keith. So, Aristotle is his writings, most notably the Ethics, well, all of them, but really the Ethics and the Metaphysics, they form the basis for, and this isn't too big of a claim. They form the basis of Western civilization for the most part. In particular, Aristotle's writings were heavily used and depended on by St. Thomas Aquinas, who of course put together much of the core of our faith. So it's very much correct to say that Thomas Aquinas was an Aristotelian. He basically took Aristotle and added the Christian faith on top of it, and it matched up very well because Aristotle talked about things like there being a one single cause of everything. Everything has a purpose. He talked about the importance of virtues and character. All of that came from Aristotle. Aristotle gave us what I refer to as the oughts of our life, the things we ought to do. All of that came from Aristotle. And Aristotle was taught in universities, which of course were founded by Catholics, of course. But Aristotle was taught in universities for the first 1,500 years of Christian history. So yeah, he's very important. He forms the foundation of one of the foundations of our Christian faith, of our Catholic faith. Now, having said that, I want to do one mea culpa. I should have named my course something different, right? Because we're here to talk about the course that I have on the GRN Academy, right, which begins on September the 8th, I think. So the Saturday after September 2nd. That's when I'm beginning my class. So my class is at 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays so that everybody can participate. I should have named it something different because I've noticed that when people saw the name of the course as it is, it says Introduction to Aristotle's Ethics. People go, oh, that's just way above my head. I just won't be able to understand that. And that's, in my opinion, that's wrong for two reasons. One, Aristotle meant for this knowledge to be used and shared by everyone. Essentially, Aristotle's work in the Ethics is to define what makes a good life, right? What is it that makes a good life for everybody? What is it that leads to the ultimate happiness, which he referred to as eudaimonia, the ultimate happiness, right? The second reason is that I'm going to teach this course in a very introductory way, right? I'm going to this course is for everybody. You do not need to have any background in philosophy. You don't need to have any background in anything, really, except just being a good practicing Catholic and being interested. and I guess be able to learn how to listen, I suppose.
That's always a good start.
But yeah. Yeah, but basically, this class is intended for everybody. It's going to be a very gentle introduction to Aristotle's ethics, and the reason I feel that's important is because Aristotle's ethics forms one of the core foundations of our Catholic faith.
So when did Aristotle live? Because I'm trying to like think back when I was going to college, and I can't really remember when he lived.
Yeah, so Aristotle was of course, a Greek philosopher, right? From the the ancient Greeks, right? He lived in the fourth century, BC. So about 400 years prior to Christ, right? And he was the third in line of the great Socratic philosophers. So first was Socrates. Which we don't have a lot of writings on Socrates. Most of what we know about Socrates comes from his student, Plato, who was next, right? So, and Plato, we have a lot of Plato's extant writings. We have a lot of his stuff that he wrote, and most of his dialogues were written in the form of having Socrates as one of the main characters, talking with other people and discussing things like truth and beauty and justice and knowledge and all the other things that Plato covered. And then one of Plato's students was Aristotle. So they spells the word spa, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. They come together like that. And so these men lived in the 4th and 5th centuries BC.
So this was before, obviously, people were writing books. So how did all this knowledge get passed down so well?
So what these guys did, in particular, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, was they knew how to write. So they would write out their notes. But they had schools. They would set up schools. So there was a very famous school set up in Athens called the Lyceum, which was a place where the wealthy would send their kids to be educated by Socrates, Plato, by Plato and Aristotle in particular. And so they would basically have these schools set up. They would write their notes out, right? They would write their notes out and then go and deliver lectures and in these schools, in these facilities, one of which was the Lyceum. So that's how they spread the word. Now, the surviving writings that we have of Plato and Aristotle, it's not everything that they wrote. Some of it was lost to antiquity. So, for example, the ethics, I think we have most of the ethics, I believe. I think there are some books that are thought to be missing. But for the most part, we do have most of Aristotle's ethics. We have most of Aristotle's metaphysics. We have most of his biology. Aristotle was primarily a biologist, believe it or not. That was his thing, was biology. And we have a lot of those writings. But we don't have everything. Some of the writings did not survive history.
That's really interesting. Like teaching is person to person, just like evangelization or evangelism.
Exactly.
Which is kind of like almost like the topic or theme of this morning's production. So yeah, you mentioned Aristotle was around in the 4th century BC. So would Jesus have known of Aristotle then, if by some chance the education was around that specific area?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I mean, I guess his divine part obviously would have.
Sure.
Right? He's God, right? So he knows everything. But in terms of his, in terms of his human part, I'm not sure, because what I don't know, and the reason I'm not sure about that, Keith, is because I'm not sure to what extent the Jewish folks at the time, the rabbis, the Jewish rabbis at the time, if they relied at all, I don't think they did. I don't think they knew much about Aristotle. So I'm pretty sure that Jesus probably didn't have a great knowledge of Aristotle in his human on his human side. So
Interesting. Yeah, I figured I'd ask that question because you mentioned how.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm going to research that a little bit and see if there's anything under there.
So let's say someone signs up for your course. What do you hope they take away from the introduction of Aristotle's ethics?
Yeah. So I really hope that they take away a fundamental understanding of what Aristotle's ethics is. Just a high level understanding. Most importantly, Aristotle's views on happiness, that we all have a purpose. We all have purposes. We all have what we call in our Catholic faith nowadays vocations, right? We all have a vocation, right? So Keith, you and I are husbands and fathers, right? So that's our vocation, right? So we all have a vocation. We all have a purpose, right? And a purpose is to identify in what constitutes happiness, and to understand that happiness really is made up of living a virtuous life, basically talking about virtues and character and habit and all of the different virtues that Aristotle identified for living a happy life. Probably one of the most important virtues that I want people to relate to is friendliness. Aristotle held having friends in very high regard. He basically, at one point, he says, if you don't have any friends, then there's no point in living. I mean, he thought friends were very important, and it's true, right? It's very, very true. I think it matches up well with our concepts of Catholic brotherhood and Christian brotherhood. That we should love our neighbor, and what better way to love your neighbor than having them as a friend? Basically just those basic facts to understand and appreciate Aristotle for what he did, for what he contributed to the basis of our faith.
Wow, that's fascinating, because I think in today's age, we're so split apart, we're so disconnected. A lot of our friendships have kind of fallen away, but this will be very good for a lot of people I know. So if you're out there listening and you're interested in more about learning all of Aristotle's ethics, make sure to go to grnonline.com/academy, or just go to the main page. There's a tab specific to GRN Academy. Dr. Ray Lopez, thank you so much for this morning. And hey, make sure
it was a pleasure, Keith.
Absolutely. Make sure to like and follow and subscribe to GRN Online so you can stay up to date on all of these great things like GRN Academy. But that's it for the first hour of Morning Joy, where truth matters. Make sure to join us tomorrow for Sissel Anderson's Fruitful Living around this time. But hey, if you aren't able to stick around for the second hour, we'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning, same time, 6 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Eastern. God bless. Make it a joyful day. Otherwise, for those staying, we'll be right back after this quick coffee break. Rip.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.